Before super cut Ronaldos, there were fat ones. Back in the good old days, you could have a pie and chips and still bang in a few goals for fun. But in today's game, with nutrition being as important as training, fat footballers have fallen out of favour. I'm going to look at the best 11 players who were as round as the ball they were kicking. Original Ronaldo is so synonymous with being a larger-than-life character that he often gets called Fat Ronaldo to distinguish from his fitness freak equivalent. At his peak in the 90s and early 2000s, he was considered to be the best player in the world, and the Brazilian won everything there was to win in the game and beyond, including a lifetime supply of Big Macs. When playing for Real Madrid, then manager Fabio Capello wanted the 96-kilogram player to drop at least 6 kilos. For context, when he won the World Cup in 2002, the player was at 84 kilograms. Capello has since said that the Brazilian wasn't really fussed by going on a diet and saw out the rest of his career presumably happy. After retiring, his weight has yo-yoed, and after a health kick in 2013, he proved he was able to get back down to peak shape. But then he decided to enjoy his life instead, and post-retirement Ronaldo has been the cuddly one we all know and love. Original Ronaldo is our first fat signing. Jan Molby famously didn't move outside of the centre circle, but then again, he didn't need to. Often abused by chants of from opposing fans, Molby is still one of only a handful of players in English football to have an FA Cup final unofficially named after him. Liverpool's 3-1 win over Everton at Wembley in 1986 is known by Reds as the Molby Cup final because of his impact on the game, which has led to a lot of people speculating on just how good he could have been without the extra timber. Some time behind bars in the late 80s for drink driving showed that the Danish legend liked a pint or two, but having won 3 league titles and 3 FA Cups with Liverpool, despite the fact he looked like he enjoyed a Danish or two, he remains one of the most naturally gifted players to have represented the club.
It's Molby! Belter!
I'm going to put Jan where he belongs, in the middle of the pitch where he'll stay. Next is one of the biggest Premier League disaster stories of all time. Sweden international Tomas Brolin arrived at Leeds as one of the most highly rated footballers in Europe. He left as one of the best adverts for fast food. Why was he so big-boned? A clue might lie in his attitude towards running. When he was asked to play on the right of midfield for Leeds against Liverpool, Brolin decided he wasn't really up for that, and in his own words he said, "I was going to run up and down the right like an idiot. That wasn't me, so I decided I was going to be poor against Liverpool." Leeds lost that game 5-0, and Brolin never recovered his career. Winner of a Cup Winners' Cup, UEFA Cup, and 3rd place at a World Cup early in his career, Brolin retired at the age of 29 to chew the fat on his career. Despite his wishes, Brolin is going on the right wing, where I don't expect him to cover a huge amount of ground. Neil Razor Ruddock played in a different time. A time when footballers could look like they came straight from Sunday League and still play at the top end of English football. Ruddock was a no-nonsense defender who played for Liverpool, Spurs and West Ham, and even won himself an England cap, but he also won himself a reputation for liking calories. So much so that when he was at Swindon in the early 2000s, there was a rumour going around that they released him because the player gained too much weight, when it was actually his bloated pay packet that meant they let him go. Then again, that doesn't mean he was Slimmer of the Year. At 34 years old, he was asked by then Swindon manager Andy King to drop down from his 15 stone on returning to training after a summer where he must have been training his bowels more than his cardio. Razor Ruddock is going in the centre of defence, and his width will mean that he covers the rest of the back line as well. Everyone's favourite cheat code on Pro Evo 6. Adriano, like all self-respecting potential Brazilian world beaters, had his finger on the self-destruct button from day one. When he was at Inter, he was touted to be one of the planet's best players.
Tackling, nobody could take the ball, he was a pure animal.
But became one of the best eaters instead. Personal problems led the talented striker down a slippery slope, and despite several Brazilian clubs offering him a way back into football during his late career, he preferred drinking, and possibly an after-drinking kebab or two, in Rio de Janeiro's favelas. When at Brazilian giants Corinthians, Adriano's weight became such a big issue for the club, they decided to lock him in his hotel room and only give him food okayed by the club's medical staff. Worst holiday ever. It probably didn't help that on his arrival at the club, fellow Brazilian prodigy footballer turned diabetic prodigy Ronaldo presented him with a box of chocolates. He's going to partner his fellow Brazilian as a forward, and in true Pro Evo 6 style, have him hanging around on the left wing annoying anyone who plays against him. Former West Ham striker Benni McCarthy let himself go so badly that his club let him go. He was very publicly challenged about his fitness issues during his spell with the London team. It got to the point where the club cut him from their 25 Premier League squad midway through the 2010-11 season. At his peak fat form, he was believed to weigh over 15 stone, Not only that, but he was given a £38,000 fine every time he failed to reach weight loss goals, which was a lot. In total, he racked up around £200,000 in fines. This might have explained why he got into a spat with Hammer's vice chairman and Alan Sugar fluffer Karen Brady, who he called the devil with, after she said he was more devoted to filling his belly than filling the net. The South African striker ended up being axed from the national side as well, just before the 2010 World Cup that his country was hosting. So this South African Big Mac didn't go down so well with a milkshake or Karen Brady. Benny has been known to play on the left wing, and seeing as we really need to use the whole of the pitch for this 11, he's going to at least have to pretend to run out there. This guy is nicknamed the Beast for a reason. He's a man constantly on a bulk phase, which means that he fluctuates massively between muscle mass and just mass. Akinfenwa is a cult hero, and he's been able to develop a fan base by pretty much playing for every club in England's lower leagues, as well as exotic locations such as Lithuania and Wales. At 17 stone, this isn't the kind of bloke you want to be messing with, but that didn't stop fans with chants like, "You're," or "offside," and "You're just a fat Eddie Murphy." Clearly those fans didn't know that a fat Eddie Murphy was still just Eddie Murphy. The stick didn't just end with the terraces. A representative Fleetwood Town Football Club called him a fat water buffalo during 2019's League One playoff semi-final. The Beast got the last laugh because he ended up at Wembley, finishing his journeyman career with a 2-0 loss to Sunderland in a League One playoff final. He might not have won the game, but he won over a lot of fans with statements like this after being out of contract.
So any managers, hit me up on a WhatsApp and get me a job. Come here.
In true lower league style, the Beast is going to play as the big target man, getting the flick on for the other strikers, making their walks. Gaza has consumed a lot over his career. Food is definitely part of that. After snubbing Manchester United for Tottenham in 1988, Alex Ferguson sent him a letter calling him a stupid, fat, and this was when he was in decent shape. During his stint with Lazio later on in his career, manager Dino Zoff forced him to go on an extreme weight loss diet to be ready for the 93-94 season. This was after he returned to training 12 kilograms heavier and worse than that, with a ponytail. Zoff summed him up nicely when saying he ate ice cream for breakfast, he drank beer for lunch, when he was injured he blew up like a whale, but what a player. Gaza was famously left out of the England 98 World Cup squad when manager Glenn Hoddle said he'd run out of time to make the weights needed to make France. But his larger-than-life personality met his larger-than-life appetite for anything that wasn't good for him. Gaza can play anywhere across the midfield and, to be honest, anywhere on the pitch he wants, because he's never been one to listen to what he's told. To be a keeper means there's slightly less pressure to stay as fit as the rest of the team. But this legendary keeper took this to new widths. Speak to any Everton fan and they'll tell you that Neville Southall was the best keeper ever to play the game in England. He won 2 league titles, 2 FA Cups and a Cup Winners' Cup. Not to mention over 500 league appearances for Everton in an illustrious career. In total, he made nearly 900 senior appearances at the highest level, and Wales, the last of which came in strange circumstances when he filled in a big way literally, with Bradford City in the Premier League at the age of 41. A loss at Valley Parade led to criticisms that he was too overweight to play professional football. His reputation matched his measurements, big, so much so, after his career, he later launched a website offering his time in exchange for money, kind of like Babe Station without the babe part. An hour on the phone with the big man was set to cost £99. An email would set you back £50. Advice on the local kebab shop was free. Big Nev is doing what he did best at the end of his career, filling up the goal. If you have a chant that goes, he's fat, he's round, he's worth £1 million, then you're both rotund and pretty good. Micky Quinn was a massive fan favourite for Portsmouth, Newcastle and Coventry, with emphasis on the word massive. He was a multiple goal scorer, despite his multiple chins. Quinn himself once claimed he was the fastest man in the world over 1 yard. He also had the flattering nickname Sumo, and despite being less fox in the box and more hog in the box, he netted over 200 league goals in his career, which can only add extra weight to the argument he was one of the best strikers with extra weight of his era. We're now completely overloaded with strikers, but it doesn't matter as we're going to play an old school 19th century formation and stick Quinn as our goal-hanging poacher. A lot of these players were around when carrying some extra pounds after a few nights out came with part of the territory. But Andy Reid played in the modern era. He hit his peak in the early 2000s and his peak weight a bit later. Reid played regular Premier League football and had a reputation as the Fat Maradona, although eventually the Fat Maradona was Maradona. 27 caps for the Republic of Ireland when Ireland was still decent shows you that he had the skills to make up for his lack of pace. but his stature didn't go unnoticed on the terraces, as he was surrounded by his theme song, which went Andy Reid, running down the wing. Andy Reid, been to Burger King. With this team and the fact that they're surprisingly attacking-minded, there's not much room for Reid here, but we'll squeeze him in like cabin crew have to do with all this team when travelling on a plane.